whose sister is autistic mentioned this little tidbit about her sister wanting to find love, and I thought that was extremely touching, and I wanted to do something that I had to research and be truthful to, and so it was just sort of a challenge for me that I wanted to accomplish, and then brought it to Will, and then you can talk about that, or you can.
Well, the script was workshopped for a very long time because obviously this is a romantic comedy about autism. It's not an easy thing to sort of tackle, so Jarret and I wanted to make sure that we were doing this right. We did lots of readings, developed it for a very long time, and then when we were finally ready to take off, I think film is too much work to make something that you don't care about passionately. It's just, it's too much to undertake something unless it's a labor of love. And I think like we just had there was so much passion behind this movie that we knew that Jane was like screaming at us to like be on this screen. I think it is such a topic that resonates for me. And I think as we just sort of started to put the project together, everyone that was reading the script really, really responded to it, and I think that time we spent making sure that it was right on the page was so important.
Lauren, tell us a little bit, what are the conversations you guys had of, we want to do this, but we don't want to do this? Where were the parameters you put on yourself to tell the story in the way you wanted to tell it?
Yeah, I think, one of the things I always look for when I'm producing a project is a writer and specifically a director who understands the material and makes sure that I want to make sure that they can tell it truthfully and that they're responsible for the story they're telling. So I feel like Will, especially, because I met him before Jarret, just when I first sat down with him and I had read the script, he just was so specific about how he wanted to tell the story, why he wanted to tell this story, and how he was going to do it truthfully. And so I think one of the things we really tried to avoid was making a stereotype, was making Jane a stereotypical character with Asperger's. We wanted to make her a real character. And I think that, both from a writing standpoint and from a directing standpoint, that was executed. So I'm very proud of that. And a lot of audiences have given us positive feedback on that. But it was one of the things that I was really, really pleased to see in the script and pleased to see in the execution.
And the other thing that we love about it, Eliza, is that it's not just a story about Jane. It's a story about the people in her life. What attracted you to the story, and what was sort of interesting about playing that character?
Yes, the sisters. I mean, I don't have any sisters. I actually have 4 stepsisters, but I grew up in a family of boys, and family dynamics, man. I love movies about family dynamics because families can be so wonderful and so fucking complicated. And I have a lot of personal friends and some family that also have Asperger's, and so it's a very personal story for me, and I find that it's always been a very complicated disorder because in many cases, if someone's sort of very clearly on the spectrum or has autism, you know what you're dealing with, and in a sense, everyone sort of around that person, like puts on their white cotton gloves, so to speak, and they know what they're facing. And with Asperger's, it can be a little more complicated, and because in some way they're very normal seeming, and they are very normal, but there are these idiosyncrasies or these little things, and that can be really challenging. And I felt like for Bianca, that thing of like wanting to protect and wanting to like having that sisterly instinct, but also not being controlling and being a total bitch. It was just really personal to me, and I loved the movie, and I loved the people that I was working with, and I thought they nailed it.
Well, let's talk about, Louisa couldn't be here because she's in a show down the street, which you guys should all go see at some point. But tell me, with the way she approached the character Jane, what for all of you guys was the most sort of interesting or surprising about working with her, on the set every day?
Before she even came on, it should be noted that she came off of like back-to-back shoots. So we had really, really looked at a lot of people in casting for Jane's, and there was just nobody quite hit it like she did, but there was like a scheduling conflict, and everybody up here really wanted her to be part of it, but we're like, she's on this other thing, and I was talking with her managers, and it's like, how can we make this work? And she was actually willing, just from the get-go, to come after 2 overnight shoots and just start. And diving into a character that, like, Will, I know at first was nervous because he's like, I haven't had the time to really workshop this character, talk to her about what, the character she's playing. So from the very get-go, she was just ready to dive in. And I'll let you kind of speak to how it was to work with her as a director.
Yeah, I mean, Eliza came onto the project very early in the summer, and I think we spent like the entire summer looking for our Jane, and I would send Eliza links, and we would talk about them, and I think that sort of helped us figure out who this character was. And actually some like little aspects of the script were evolving as we were doing casting. And we found Louisa, and like we had to push our shoot back to get her. And I think because of that time crunch, the answer wasn't, hey, get on the set and like let's get this right. It was, let's get on the set and let's just try a million different things, because if you talk to someone who knows someone on the spectrum, they'll say, if you've met one person on the spectrum, you've met one person on the spectrum. So there was no right or wrong way to go about doing this. We had a wonderful autism consultant who Louisa leaned on and I leaned on for feedback. But honestly, like in the editing room, it was like Louisa gave us options. She tried different things. I mean, Eliza had no idea what was going to happen in each take. It was like very like Louisa stayed in character. It's like going to the dressing room in the morning and like there's Jane. She's like here already.
How does that make that better though for you guys when you're doing that? When you have those time constraints and you're just throwing things out there, how does that ultimately, you think, make a better film and something that you're proud of? Wow, I can't believe we came up with that in that moment.
Can you say that again? That's an interesting question.
How does it make it when you have time constraints and you have budget constraints? How does it force you to be more creative?
Oh, it just sucks so much. I mean, we were a scrappy little group of filmmakers, and I think a good example is the walk and talk with Eliza and Anisha. It's like we show up in Dumbo to do the scene, and there's just like all this construction happening, and it's like every location you get kicked out of, and but you find that when you have to adapt and think fast and move quickly, it's just like you find your rooftop at the Empire State Building, which you never thought you were going to find, and like things just sort of, there was a lot of weird, wonderful synergy around the project.
And I would say also, I mean, the short answer is like you do your homework and you do your preparation, and just like you guys said, I mean, we watched a lot of tapes and we saw a lot of people reading for Jane, and Louisa's just a boss, and she's so good. And I remember the first time seeing her tape, and you see it, and it's a little, it starts to feel repetitive. And there was something about her. There was something so like authentic, and it wasn't like she was trying to force anything or like trying to play autistic. She was just like in the moment, and she was wonderful. And so I think with time constraints, you better have your ducks in a row and the right people, and then when you get there, because there is that reality that you're going to have to just go for it, and you get what you get. And I think doing the preparation in advance got us there.
Yeah, and I think Jane doesn't work without Jack. Like that.
I love him so much. Is he not just?
Has to be believable.
I just love that man, and it was his first movie, and I saw him in Matilda. And he rocked in that, and he was completely different. And I just watched this movie, and I sit in the back row, and I talk about how much I love him to the people next to me. I just think he's incredible.
He's about to be in a film with Meryl Streep. And,
there you go. You heard it.
We discovered him.
That kid.
Yep. But I just want to say one thing about Louisa on set, which was phenomenal, was that she was like always Jane. You know, not to the extent of Daniel Day-Lewis or something where he's going to get, you know, mono or whatever it is he got, pneumonia because he wouldn't wear coats or something. But she was constantly in that, and I think it made a really great energy on the set of everyone just having a good time. And yeah, I just wanted to add that.
Awesome.